Well, hello there again, everybody. Boyd here with you. Welcome to part 2 of our MPC 22-inch Eagle build. I've been just taking my time, really enjoying building this kit, working on it slow and steady here, and I wanted to share where I'm at with you guys just before Thanksgiving. For those of you in the United States here, happy Thanksgiving coming up, everybody. Hope you enjoy it. But we've got these little cages that I've been working on that I talked about in the last video. And I'm finding out a few things about this that I thought I'd share with you to hopefully make it easier when you guys build your own. I want to talk about the painting first. I picked out my color that I'm using, the wicker white from Folk Art that we painted the spine with. We showed in the last video. So to start off with here, you're building these kind of block assemblies here, and then you're putting all this tubing and framework over the top of it with a bunch of other detail. And I'm finding that it's easier for me to go ahead and start painting these all separately, all these pieces. I basically got this block part put together and then painted that. And each little area that I'm building with the framing and everything, I'm painting before I put it together, and then carefully going back and scraping off the paint with a hobby knife where I know I'm going to make my glue contacts at, so it'll stick together really good. But trying to paint this after it's done, I kind of have this one here mocked up so I could show you what it looks like after you get all the framework put on. There's still some uprights that need to go on here I haven't put on yet. But you can see by looking at this, it's going to be really hard to get in here and cover this whole thing with paint if you wait and paint it after it's all assembled, because you've got so many shapes and nooks and crannies that you have to get to. You're going to wind up putting your paint on really thick because you're going to try to spray in there, and you're going to get overspray over top of the other areas you already painted and everything like that. So for me, it just worked out better to paint everything as I go. And, probably the most time-consuming part is that you've got all these, I'd say there's probably about 100 of these, kind of tubes that go together to make up the framework on this thing, and you got to build them all individually. So I'm having to, paint all those tubes and everything separately. But, it'll be worth it after it's all done because it'll come together and look really nice. But I just wanted to point that out. It might work better for you to paint it that way. There's a couple of things here I wanted to share with you too on the assembly of these cages, and there's some kind of things that are a little bit hard to understand on the instructions, so I wanted to point that out to hopefully help you out. I had an issue here where I didn't pay close enough attention to it and I made a little mistake. I was able to go back and correct it, but it turned out to be really critical, and I'll try to show you what I'm talking about here. So when you're putting these cages together, let me get one of these out on top of the instructions so I can show it to you. When you're putting these together, when you start off with this kind of block assembly here, you want to be really careful to make sure you pay attention to the detail here, because it's important that you put that together exactly the same on both sides. Otherwise you're going to have a fit issue later on that will haunt you, and that's exactly what happened to me. When I built this block assembly here, it's kind of way over here, might be out of the picture a little bit. Let me see if I can slide this over. They show this step here where you're putting this detail part on the top right here, and I didn't pay attention. When I built the second one, I had this part backwards because it will fit either way. There are no locating pins or whatever to that only line up one way or whatever, so I actually wound up putting that one on facing the other way, and I didn't think it really mattered. I did notice I did that, but I didn't think it was going to matter. But later on, when I went to line up the top and bottom framework here, let me get the actual part so I can show you. I noticed that we had a problem here where the see, you've got these centering holes that are on here where to glue these upper and lower framework parts here like this. And so what happened was when I put this together, I can get that one back on there, the hole is not exactly in the center, which you'll find out. And so what happens here is that our upper and lower framework was not going to line up. One was going to be too far forward, so the crossbars would look crooked, and then of course when you go to connect it to the other part of the model, it's going to have a gap in the top and be uptight on the bottom, so it wouldn't have fit. So I had to really carefully take this all back apart. And luckily it hadn't been drying that long, so I was able to get a hobby knife in the edge and gently lift it up and get it all repositioned and everything. But yeah, that makes a big difference. And then also here, you can see that they have these little, on one side here of these parts, these upper and lower framework areas, they have these little tabs. And you want to make sure you pay really close attention to the instructions as far as which way those go, because there's a forward bulkhead and a rear bulkhead. The forward one here goes to the front part of the cockpit area, and the back part goes to the whole engine module in the back. So you want to make sure you do that, because again, these are only, you know, they can be put on both ways is what I'm trying to say. So you want to make sure you don't make that mistake. Now, this was kind of strange. They have this little part right here that only goes on the forward section, and they have these big kind of slots that are on this front part of the block assembly, I guess I'll call it. And they call for this part only to go on the front. And so on the back, they don't really, let me again break out the instructions here. They don't really tell you anything about the back. They just said, you know, don't put that part on there. Well, the weird thing about it is that if you don't put anything on there, you have this huge, let me see if I can find that spot right here. Yeah, it says install part B10 on the front box assembly only here. This part right here. But they don't tell you what to do with the rear part. So I went through the instructions and tried to look and see if later on there was something that goes on there, but there's nothing that goes on there. So what you would have here is you'd have these, you know, huge open slots that you'd see. Now, the engine and everything, the engine modules go on here, and there's a bunch of tubing and tanks and everything, and you might not be able to see it. That might, you know, partially cover that up, but I thought you were going to be able to see it. I just kind of did some mock building here, and, you know, you definitely will be able to see that in there. So I just took some putty. This isn't glued on, by the way. I just went in here with some putty and just puttied over that. Just, you know, I didn't do a perfect job on, just a quick putty job, and then painted over it so at least you won't see, you know, those big open gaps there. I just thought that was kind of strange. I thought they would have maybe given you a little piece to go over top of that or something, but I can see why they didn't mold them differently and cover up the slots, because they probably just used the same mold for both of these parts. It'd be more expensive probably to make, you know, a separate mold that's different like that, when basically besides that both parts are identical. So I kind of get why they did that, but just giving you a heads up that you might want to clean that up before you glue everything together, and then find out about it later that, you know, you thought there was going to be a part that went in there or something. That's kind of what I figured out on that. So everything's going together really good on this. I'm going to have to look at the springs for the landing gear. This actually has kind of functioning landing gear where they have a little bit of movement to it, like it did on the television show when it either touched down or lifted off. And according to what I'm hearing is that this kit, which is the original first issue of this kit, the springs are a little bit too stiff in it to where the model will want to sit up a little bit too high. But I'm looking into, I've got a bunch of old pens around here. I can probably use a spring from a pen or something like that if it winds up being that way. Or I may cut a couple of coils out of the springs that come with the kit or something like that. And I'll let you guys know when we get to that point what we figure out for that. But what I wanted to show you right now, this will be a kind of a quick short video today, guys. I'll be back over the weekend with a longer update on this, but what I wanted to show you right now is what I've been doing is as I'm painting these parts and going, you know, putting everything together, I'm going in here and just doing a little bit of a wash on some of this stuff just to bring it up a little bit. Now what I've done is I've made my wash. This is just some regular water-based craft acrylic paint, and I've just thinned it down really, really thin with just regular tap water. And I can tell, you know, about how thin it is by picking it up with my brush and letting it drip on the side there, and, you know, get my mixture right. Now, the important thing that I always do, or something that works really good for me, whenever I'm making a wash, I'll take and put a drop or two of Dawn dishwashing liquid in this. And that what that does is it, I picked that tip up a long time ago from somebody else's YouTube video who I wish I could mention, but I can't remember anymore. It was a guy that was doing a lot of model airplanes. And he mentioned how, you know, there's surface tension on water, and I did notice whenever I was trying to do it with just plain water, if I would try to put it on, it would kind of not want to stay where I put it. You know, it would want to kind of repel away, or, you know, do all kinds of weird stuff. So you put a little bit of dishwashing detergent or liquid in this, and just, you know, a tiny little bit, you know, like one drop in a cup like this will work just fine. And that breaks the tension, apparently, and the wash will kind of go and stay more where you want it to go, and you know, go on more evenly and all that, and it'll stick to the areas that, you know, little recesses and stuff like that. So that actually works really good. But I just want to show you really quick what I'm doing. It's nothing fancy. I'm just kind of picking out little shapes on here. Let me grab this one. This one's already kind of done. And I don't want to make this, you know, I don't want to make this detail look like it's greasy and worn, like maybe a Star Wars model, you know, like a Rebel. The Rebel stuff was always kind of beat up. This one I'm just, you know, want to make a little bit of highlighting on it. So I'm just putting little, you know, little spots on here and there where I see a little bit of raised detail or shapes that are interesting and things like that. And it's not heavy at all. Like maybe we'll go around this little ring right here, and maybe a little bit in the center like that. There's a little bit of detail that goes across the top of that. And you probably can't even see it on the camera. It's just putting a little bit on there. I'll kind of go around this thing here and show you. And if I get too much, I just, you know, wipe it off really quick and just hit it with the brush again and soak it back up on there and kind of spread it out. But again, this is water-based, so if I get a little bit too much, I can just take, after it dries, I can come back with some water, just plain water on this brush, and kind of wipe it off. But I'm just going around and touching around the edges of certain things, you know, that I see. These little vents right here, we put our brush in there, and we, you can see maybe that does show up a little bit better. It kind of brings out the depth of those a little bit more, you can see. Even though I pre-shaded this with some black, you know, this still kind of helps bring some of that back. And you don't have to be super careful or anything like that. You're just kind of, you know, putting it on there, kind of something like that. Go around this little round thing here. And, you know, it just helps bring everything out. Again, you don't want to make it, you know, if you want to, that's up to you. If you want to make this look like a little bit of a, you know, more worn and used eagle, maybe you want to do that. But for just regular purposes, we're only doing this just to bring out a little bit of that detail. You know, so everything's not just this plain white egg color, you know, that looks all the same. It's going to look really cool anyway once you put it all together, once some shadows hit it and everything, because there's a lot of, you know, structure and detail on this. We've got some kind of screens over here on this side. Let me go over some of these and see if you can see those a little bit better. Just letting the, you know, kind of like a capillary action where you're just kind of putting it in there and letting it run. And kind of something like that. You can maybe see that there. Go in there and clean that up just a little bit. And if you go over a little bit, don't worry about it. You can come back and clean that up with a Q-tip with some water, or a brush with some water once it's dry. But just kind of get that in there, and, you know, kind of go around some of these shapes next to these tubes and stuff. And that, all that does is it creates like a little bit of a false shadow or whatever, you know, so you get a little bit of extra pop when you go up to the model and look at it up close. Okay. So there you go, guys. Pretty simple and straightforward. Works really good. So again, I'm going to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving. I'll come back over the weekend here, and I'll do another video that'll be a lot more. I'm going to continue to work on it probably Thanksgiving evening and Friday and Saturday, and we'll have a little bit more done. We'll be getting into getting most of this framework put together, and we should be able to attach it onto the main spine. Then it'll be time to start building the center module. I'm going to leave the engines and the forward cockpit area to the very end, because I'm still, you know, putting together how I'm going to light this. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Again, thanks for checking us out. Thanks for watching. We'll see you guys in a few days, and until then, take care and happy modeling, everyone.